Enfocus Connect combines PDF creation and quality control with hassle-free file delivery for the graphic arts professional. It exists in two flavors, one called Connect YOU for the individual who delivers files to several producers, and one called Connect All for the companies who receive files from many outside file creators. This presentation focuses on the first flavor, Connect YOU. Connect YOU enables graphic arts professionals to set up an unlimited number of connectors that will handle the creation of print-ready PDF files, correct, verify, and deliver them to a service provider, all with one click of the mouse from within the desktop application. Here's an example of how a designer would access a connector through the print menu. He or she chooses the virtual printer of the connector from the list of available printers, and all the rest is taken care of automatically. Now let's take a look at the complete process.
I am a graphic designer and I'm going to set up Connect YOU to automate some of my work. A connector is a standalone program that I can put on my desktop. Projects can be removed, duplicated, shared, or exported as connectors. Before creating a connector, the project has to be properly configured. The first obvious property is that the connector has to have a name. If you want to customize your connector, you can choose an icon for the connector on my desktop. In the Printer tab, I can define if a virtual printer has to be installed on my computer. This virtual printer will generate a PDF with the settings of my choice and will automatically continue the other steps of the file correction, verification, and delivery process. In other words, I can initiate the whole process from the print command within my desktop applications. Note that in a Creative Suite environment, a plugin is used to access the export command within InDesign and Illustrator to create a PDF. This ensures that all graphical properties of the PDF like layers and transparencies do not get lost. In the Pre-Flight tab, I can apply corrections and verify they meet specific standards using the built-in Enfocus Pitsub technology. By making sure the PDF is the highest quality possible before sending to an external service provider. In the Pre-Flight tab, I can choose the Pitsub action list for corrections and a Pitsub pre-flight profile to verify its content. For the pre-flight profile, you can choose from a list of standards like ones defined by the Gantt workgroup, or I can import one provided by a service provider who uses Pitsub in their production. For action list corrections, it is always a good idea to include the one that embeds all fonts. Sending PDF files with missing fonts is one of the most common mistakes in PDF file delivery. Again, the service provider may want to give you a few action lists that will automatically correct common mistakes, like white objects that are set to overprint, black objects that do not overprint, and so on. If you want to take advantage of Pitsub's smart pre-flight capabilities, I also choose a variable set. We will come back on how to configure this in a different presentation. In the Job Ticket tab, I define whether or not I want to include job information to my file delivery. The created job ticket is delivered with your job files as a separate text, XML, or CSV file. This can help communicate critical job information to the receiver and, if available, even help them automate your job's production if they have a workflow automation solution like Enfocus Switch. Finally, I define the way in which the jobs will be delivered. There are several delivery methods possible: FTP, mail, HTTP, and directly into Switch. I will of course have to communicate with the service provider so he can give me the details on how he wants to receive the file. Suppose he wants me to send the files to his FTP site. I then fill in the settings of his FTP site, along with the credentials he gave me. Now these will be stored in the connector when it's created, and I won't have to worry about remembering these settings again. I also can check the option to send him an email to inform him of the fact that I put a file on his FTP site. I can use variables in the subject line and the content of the message. In all of these steps, I have been defining how my connector will work, and now we're ready to create it. Once the connector is created, using it is simple. Since this connector has a virtual printer defined, it will need to install it onto the system. To start this, I double-click the connector, fill in my credentials, and now the configurator installs the new virtual printer. Now, when I print from one of my DTP applications, I see that the virtual printer is in the list. I select it, and now the connector takes over. It creates the PDF based on all the settings I've already predefined, pre-flights it, delivers it to the FTP site of the service provider, and notifies him by mail that I send the file. When the file has been processed, I have the opportunity to check the report. This is convenient because I have an immediate feedback even before the file has been sent, and I can immediately see if anything is not okay, instead of the service provider coming back to me tomorrow with a complaint. There is nothing wrong with the file, as we can see, and by confirming, the file is delivered to the service provider.
When looking at the FTP site of the service provider, we see that the file along with the metadata have been correctly delivered. We have now seen the complete flow of how to work with Connect YOU from the perspective of the designer or graphic arts professional, and I'm sure you can see the benefits it can bring. We're at the end of the presentation on Connect YOU. May I remind you there are separate movies on some more advanced technical topics like the use of metadata in Smart Preflight. Thank you for watching this video.